Hey guys, Tarke here, and today I'm going to make a really not very fun video, but it's a video that I need to make, and I've tried to structure it in a way that this will also be relevant for not just understanding where I'm coming from, but anyone who wants to get into streaming or any other streamers. Basically, I'm going to talk about the things that I'm currently really struggling with, but hopefully in a way that, as I said, this relates to other people, and this might maybe be helpful to someone, or at the very least you'll know where I'm coming from. So, I've been struggling quite a lot with both mental and physical health recently, and it always boils down to these three things. It's a very cyclical thing. I've made very similar videos on my channel before. This is something that I always struggle with, and yeah. So why am I making this video now? I've been struggling a lot with my health. I've been to my GP, that's a doctor, what we call it in the UK. My doctor thinks I'm depressed. I'm fine. I'm dealing with it. I'll be alright, just working shit out. I've had a bunch of family stuff going on recently. I've been having non-stop tension headaches for about 5 weeks now, basically stress-induced headaches. And yeah, it's fun. So, I've prepared a bunch of notes that you can see here, and I'll take them off the stream and we can start my amazingly made infographic. So why have I got this kind of like three-way pointers of stream, IRL, Crohn's? These are the three things that I struggle with. So streaming, content creation, YouTube channel, IRL, actual real stuff, and Crohn's. If you don't know, Crohn's, boring autoimmune disease. I'm 26. I was diagnosed with it when I was like 18, 19. I'm working it out. There's no cure. It's just a thing. You have it. You put up with it. If you want to Google it, that's how it's spelled. It's really fucking boring. So, I'll start off with the stream and YouTube stuff, because that's the stuff that is relevant to most people, and this video is going to be very negative. Again, I'm fine. I'm literally just going through the things that I mostly struggle with. There are positives to all of these, but the main things that I've been struggling with when it comes to the whole streaming thing. And they all bleed into each other, which is why this is relevant. So, streaming, you have unsocial hours. It's just the reality of streaming. I tend to stream for about 6 to 12 hours on average. Towards the start of the league, it's pushing more like 12 hours plus. Towards this point of the league, it's more like the 6 to 8 hour mark. 6 to 8 hour mark, that's really the sweet spot. It's the bit where you're not like completely killing yourself. You can still do stuff outside of the stream. You can still manage things. But that like first rush of a few weeks leading up to a league, the first few weeks of a league, we were doing like 12 to 16 hour streams. Everything which isn't streaming completely just dissolves around you, and just everything just kind of crumbles. So a lot of people get into this situation where it's kind of like 3 weeks into the league, you're like, okay, shit, I now need to deal with all the things I've been neglecting leading up to this point. One of my niches as a content creator is I have decent relationships with GGG, which basically boils down to I talk to some of the devs like they're actual people, and I meme a lot with Bex. Because of that, we have a lot of random like dev interviews and stuff on my podcast, and it's really fun, and I'm incredibly grateful for the situation I'm in. The way that I maintain that is I literally just shit talk with Bex a lot, and that involves flipping my sleep schedule a lot of the time. So obviously New Zealand is not next to the UK. There's 11-hour time zone difference between the two. So I'm often staying up when we're like talking a lot. I'll be staying up to like 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, or I'm waking up at like 4, 5 in the morning to talk in the morning. It would be a lot easier if time zones didn't exist. My life in general would be a lot easier if time zones didn't exist. But yeah, I often end up in very unhealthy sleep schedules because of just streaming hours in general, but then also streaming hours and trying to balance like New Zealand hours on top of that. Also, whenever anything is announced by GGG, obviously they announce it on New Zealand time, so there's lots of like staying up till like 2, 3 in the morning in case there's an announcement. This is most stuff which happens towards the league start. Bay cast management. Less of an issue now that our cast is mostly European. Obviously, Octavian is still in the States. But when we first started out and we had Ziggy in Australia, we had Cute Dog in the States, and then we had Rise and Yoji in EU. That was when this like whole time zone thing was particularly difficult. Most streamers stream because, well, we enjoy it. We're slightly narcissistic and we're not very good at real life, but we're okay at this. Because of that, most streamers are fairly useless at like staying on top of doing other streamery stuff. I love Baycast. I'm never going to stop doing Baycast. I really enjoy it. Managing it is a fucking pain though. Organizing, micromanaging other people's schedule isn't fun, especially when you're struggling with your own bullshit. Your hobby becomes work. Anyone who streams or does a YouTube or would like to will soon realize this or has realized this. If the main thing you do to unwind after a long day of school, a long day of work is play PoE for a couple of hours, what do you do after you finish streaming? Well, you want to wind down from the stream. I really enjoy streaming PoE. I actively enjoy playing PoE on stream, but streaming, you have to be entertaining. You have to be at a certain level, so I often get like wired basically, where it takes me like a couple of hours after a stream to then like chill the fuck back down. So you often feel like, oh, I'll just play PoE for a couple of hours off stream. The problem you have with that though is you end up feeling kind of guilty because you're still in game and you're like, I should really be streaming this as this is wasted content. The whole idea of wasted content where you feel like everything you do, like, oh, I need to take a picture of this because I could use this picture as a tweet. And that can be this whole really weird toxic thing where you're just like always like being overly glued into social and everything because everything is content and you have to turn every single aspect of your life into content creation. But yeah, you also have the issue where if like a game comes out you really want to play it and you feel like you can't play it because you'll like kill your channel. People always ask, Tarke, you want to play Classic WoW? I'd like to play Classic WoW. I can never realistically justify playing Classic WoW. I recently picked up RimWorld. I did 2 RimWorld streams recently. Really enjoyed it. Some of my viewers really enjoyed it. But my channel isn't doing very well at the moment because of the time of the month that it is, since we're getting into month 1, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So if I'm getting like 200-300 viewers streaming PoE and I'm getting like 50 viewers streaming RimWorld, well, it'd be stupid to stream RimWorld. And also, whenever you're streaming RimWorld, people are like, oh, Tarke, you've quit PoE. It's like, no, I'm just having a break for a few days. But you constantly get the, oh, so you're quitting. Is the game dead? Is the league dead? Is Legion dead? Is your private league dead? It's like, no, it's fine. I just wanted to have a break for a little bit. But you get on that, like, when you're on an anxious streak anyway, and you get that, like, anxiety, like, added through Twitch chat, that can be, like, a bit intense. And that leads directly into the next point, which is the whole, like, getting triggered. Every single streamer, I've done it probably too many times, at some point has had like a meltdown, be it at his Twitch chat or YouTube comments or on Twitter or something. It's just inevitable because people have random breakdowns. You could have someone who you live with someone and their thing is that when they're making tea or coffee, they get like, they dip the teaspoon in the coffee and they dip it in the sugar and then the sugar's got like coffee marks on it. I use that as an example because that's something that freaks my grandmother out. And I vividly remember her like completely losing her shit and like screaming and I was a kid and she was like freaking out because her partner had made coffee the wrong way. That's a very small, very tiny little detail, but hopefully you can kind of relate to that. Something which often happens is like if you're struggling generally, then you're way more likely to get triggered or baited by things in chat. I'm very bad at getting baited. Someone says something which is obviously just there to piss you off, or even if it's just like a joke, you make a passing joke about it, someone tunes in halfway through, you then have to re-explain it, and then what was just a passing comment about a slightly controversial topic or whatever ends up into like a really intense 1-hour debate, and at the end of it you're just exhausted and you're like, dude, I just don't even want to stream anymore. Anyone who watched my stream recently, I had this whole thing about a comedy special I watched on Netflix. I made a passing comment about the way that it was filmed, and it led to a really intense, like, 2-hour conversation. And at the end of it, I was just like, dude, I cannot be fucked anymore. I need to stop streaming right now. Numbers equal self-worth, and that's what I was talking about earlier is. So at the top, you can see I have my sub count of 244. About 2 to 3 weeks ago, that was 450. My busiest periods are the weeks leading up to a league. Every single streamer will have this massive like rise first month of the league, and then it'll start to dip down. Obviously, you get the most viewers on the PoE section at league start. There's the most to talk about at league start. Amazon Prime, 1 free sub each and every month. You get all these subs, you get all these views. Your channel's doing amazing. You're feeling great because like, oh, but then people stop losing interest in PoE in the league, and your numbers start to trickle down a bit. It's just inevitable. There's nothing you can do about it, but you often feel like you're the problem. Like, what have I done wrong which has caused this? So then if something happens with either the crohns or the IRL, which means I have to spend less time on streaming or YouTube, then that dip happens faster and more extreme. and then you're always aware of it. I know a lot of streamers who purposely hide all of their numbers from themselves. Realistically, though, it's not that sustainable, because it's like, if you have sub notifications on, you get way more subs if that shit's on screen. I would prefer having 0 sub notifications, 0 donation notifications. But if someone sees someone sub, they go, oh, that was cool, I could sub. Or if I make an Amazon Prime joke, someone will sub. So you always have to be mentioning it. This is the weird toxic bullshit. Anyone who likes Asmongold, he has his like second channel, his Zach channel. He made a very good video talk about that whole thing. Would recommend that you check it out. But he talks about that whole weird mindset of basically the better your numbers are, the better you are as a person. And if someone has better numbers than you, then they are a better person than you. Obviously, that's not true, but that's just how your brain works. So it's like, if the streamer's doing badly, you as a person are failing. And that's something that I know a lot of streamers really do struggle with, and it's this really toxic bullshit that is just kind of there. XLCon. I'm really looking forward to XLCon. I'm incredibly excited about XLCon. To be completely transparent, GGG is flying me to New Zealand, and they're also paying for my accommodation for the days of the event. I'm going to be in New Zealand from the 6th to the 20th. I still need to work out accommodation for like everything leading up to the event, but that's irrelevant. I'm really excited about XLCon. I'm really worried about XLCon for 2 reasons. Reason 1 is to do with Crohn's, so I'm going to quickly jump into the Crohn's section, explain what Crohn's is in passing. Autoimmune, blah blah blah. The main ways that it affects me. Generally fatigue. I'm 26, diagnosed with it, like, as I said, 19, and I cannot remember the last day that I've woken up with, like, energy. I'm nearly always tired to some degree. I have sporadic periods of extreme bad health. It could last for a day, it could last for a month, it could last for a year. When I graduated, I was basically completely out of action for about a year and a half because I made myself really sick finishing my degree. Every 8 weeks, I have an infusion. And that's just part of my treatment for the Crohn's. It's nothing that major, but about 2 weeks before each infusion, I go into a decline. My health gets really bad. And it takes me about a day or 2, 3 days generally afterwards to kind of get back to normal, like my normal state for having Crohn's. So why is that relevant to XLCon? Just the general like Crohn's thing, being unwell, being on the other side of the planet, being away for 2 weeks, traveling by myself. That's just like a stress of like, what happens if I get ill or whatever. But my infusions, so because they happen every 8 weeks, you know when they're going to happen, right? Because you have like calendars and stuff. I'm meant to be having an infusion on like the 15th or something. And you're like, but Tarke, you're there from the 6th to the 20th. How does that work? I've been purposely delaying my infusions. So every time I get an infusion and I get the next one booked, I've been getting them to push them back by a couple of days. If I keep pushing them back by a couple of days, what will happen is when I land, I've got basically like a 3 to 4 day like grace period, and then I'm back in hospital right after it. That gives me like I leave on the 20th, but because of time zones, I think I land like the 21st or the 22nd or something, and then I've got like a day or 2 to get over the jet lag, and then I'm in hospital. Because I'm delaying, like I'm pushing them back a bit, I'm not actually having them every 8 weeks. I'm having them like every 8.5, 9 weeks. So basically I'm fucking with my doses. I get into a decline about 2 weeks before anyway. My next infusion is incidentally in about 2 weeks. The next one is on the 2nd. And that also means that I will probably be in a decline when I'm in New Zealand. So that's going to be stressful anyway, but that's just the whole thing. Another thing is just organizing it itself. So I really enjoy meeting viewers. I want to stress that point. I love meeting viewers. If you're going to XLCon or you just haven't seen me about in London, which happened once or twice, please do say hello. I love meeting viewers. I find being a streamer and the whole streamer dynamic thing fucking weird. So I went to TwitchCon like 3 or 4 months ago, really enjoyed it. But I actually got like kind of depressed for like a good month and a half afterwards. A few other streamers who I've spoken to, they had a similar thing. I found the whole event incredibly dehumanizing. I'm hoping XLCon's going to be very different because XLCon is just a PoE thing, not like a Twitch as a whole thing. I generally just don't really like Twitch culture, and without getting super void into everything, a lot of it's all to do with numbers. And again, to paraphrase something that Zach has said in a different video, you generally get 2 kinds of streamers. you get business streamers, and then you get the keeping it real streamers. And he says it's kind of like that whole punk rock mentality of being genuine. The perfect streamer is somewhere in the middle. Most people are extremes, one of the two. I'm more of a keeping it real kind of streamer. My whole thing is like being genuine, being upfront, explaining what's going on, hence this amazing video. That kind of thing. Business streamers are great. They're fucking boring though. So what I mean by that is you get a lot of streamers who their whole thing is just talking numbers, and you meet them and they're just like, yo, numbers, metrics, numbers, metrics, numbers, metrics, numbers, metrics. And it's just like, dude, you're like pushing me into a coma. Can we please just like hang out as people? Like, we're hanging out. Can we just be people? And I really enjoyed TwitchCon. I really enjoyed meeting a bunch of streamers. It's fun talking about your work because it is fun. But it's like anyone who works in an office or anything, it's like, it's fun when you're talking about your work or when you're having a few drinks. But if that is the only thing you talk about, it is so exhausting. Really, really exhausting. So that's one thing that I'm worried a little bit about. Also at TwitchCon, I had like a minor anxiety attack. There was a Pee-wee meetup, which was like 50 people. And I was like, oh my god, I feel all this pressure, what the fuck? XLCon, I think, is going to be like 3,000 people. There's something like 2,500 tickets. There's going to be like 500 tickets for press. So let's say there's 3,000 people there. Let's say 1/3 of the people there know who I am. That means I'm going to be at an event where there are 1,000 people who potentially know who I am. That's really fucking weird. So yeah, that's all stuff that I'm trying to work out. Also, when it comes to XLCon, I'm trying to like book stuff because, as I said, I need to work out like accommodation for the first like 10 days. I'm not worried about the financial stuff of it. That's like something, but it's whatever. But loads of streamers are doing, like, some guys are landing in Wellington. I'm landing in Auckland. It's like, oh, we're going to do all this traveling and do all this cool trips and stuff. I would love to go on this massive adventure and see, like, Hobbits land and where Lord of the Rings shit was and all this bullshit. Hobbit land, that's the official name. But it's this kind of reality of, will I actually be up for that? Am I just going to spend 2 weeks just dicking about in Auckland waiting for this event? What am I actually going to be able to do? Am I going to book things that not be well enough? And it's just something I always have with Crohn's and booking anything, and that's just been a thing which has been nagging in the back of my head and stressing me out recently. So moving off the whole stream and content creation thing into the IRL thing. So in terms of my IRL situation, again, 26, I moved back home when I was, I believe, 22, so I think I've been here for like 4 years now. I moved out when I was 17, doing my own thing. I was living with an ex, and then I moved into accommodation to finish up my degree, and then I moved in with a different ex, ended up back here. I live in London. London's really fucking expensive. Anyone who wants to get into streaming, I cannot sustain myself in London with my numbers. If you want to get into streaming and you live in an expensive part of the world, if you think your channel can be bigger than my channel, fucking go for it, dude. You'll be fucking ace. If you think, oh god, no, Tarke, that would take me years and years, please don't quit your day job to do this. If you want to do it, good luck, but like, you need to have a support system. I'm very lucky that there is a room here that I can do this, but it is really stressful being back home, especially since I've lived by myself before, and that whole thing is a thing. And because of this whole cycle I have of balancing stream, IRL, and Crohn's, I don't know what the end sight is. So basically it's just kind of like, cool, I'm just doing this, try and spend as little money as possible, try and save as much money as I can so that I can afford to do cool things like XLCon and hopefully move out at some point before I go insane. I have an incredibly small, tight-knit family. It's basically me, my mum, my grandmother, my uncle, and my grandmother's partner. That's it. No siblings. That's it. There is a history of like mental health and just poor physical health in my family, without going into any crazy details or talking on other people's behalf, which I don't feel comfortable doing. Because it's such a small family, whenever there's any issue with one person, it often splashes onto the others, and we'll all be trying to help one another, but it often gets really messy and really toxic, and people people are messy. I have a very small social circle. I was one of those people who started dating very young and was very bad at just focusing on relationships and not focusing on like maintaining friends outside of that. So I had my friends I played WoW with, and then I had my girlfriend growing up, and I didn't need to hang out with anyone else because I would just hang out with my girlfriend or I'd hang out with my friends that I play WoW with. My friends stopped playing WoW, I stopped playing WoW, we barely hang out anymore. And when you have friends which are just parts of relationships, when relationships end, you suddenly realize, shit, I don't actually have any friends. Anyone who's watching this who's still in school or still young and you've like just started dating someone, dating people is good, but also maintain your friendships outside of that, because you don't want to be in that random situation where like you end a 3-year relationship or something and you realize, shit, I've actually not got any friends outside of this. This is really weird. I do have some quite close friends, but they don't live in London, so I see them very rarely. I see them like every couple of months when they happen to be in London. Going back to the whole stream schedule, like New Zealand time zones and stuff, it really sucks when I'm on a weird flip sleep schedule to like wake up at like 5 in the morning, going to bed at like 4 p.m. and stuff. And then people are like, hey, do you want to go out for a drink this night? And I'm like, oh, by this night, you mean like before 4 p.m. And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, shit, no, sorry, fuck. So that's something which is kind of just like always difficult to manage just in general. And then obviously through streaming, you don't meet people. I have very close friends who I've made with other streamers. There are people in my chat who I consider very good friends. However, it's real, but it's not real. It's a very like isolating career path, and that's something that you need to be really aware of if this is something that you do want to get into. And most streamers struggle with that, which is also why most streamers get on with one another, because they struggle with the same thing. So there's that shared kind of bond there. I'm in a long distance relationship. I've been dating my girlfriend for 2 years now. She lives in Ireland. Super happy with the relationship. It's all going amazing. Anyone wondering? But obviously it means that maintaining that is kind of difficult because it's a long distance relationship. We don't see each other very often. She's started up a new degree, so she's very busy. We don't talk as much as we used to. And it's like we'll see each other every 1 to 2 months. I'll travel there for a few days. She travels here for a few days. I take time off streaming. I take time off for like family stuff. So you get into this thing where it's like, I feel like I only ever focus on 2. I never really focus on all 3. When I do focus on all 3, it all just kind of crumbles. That's kind of the issue that I have. It's like, I can do stream and I can manage Crohn's. If my IRL, everything is going perfectly fine and nothing's going wrong with anyone, which realistically never happens. I can do IRL and I can do streaming if my Crohn's is being nice, but that doesn't realistically happen that often. So I really struggle balancing all 3. And that's why I have sporadic periods on my channel. That's why I'm making this video, because I'm currently going through a really bad Crohn's IRL period. So my stream content's been not that existent recently. What are my main coping mechanisms for that? So I have 2 main coping mechanisms. I really enjoy walking, and I really enjoy researching things. And you're like, okay, so what do you mean by researching things? This is a long video, apologies by the way. So I really enjoy walking. I can very happily walk for like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 hours, like twice a day. I can be very obsessive about walking. Walking is great. It's very good for you. When your Crohn's is really bad, walking for like 2 hours twice a day isn't very realistic. I'm very much an all or nothing guy. So if I'm not feeling up to going for like a 3-hour walk, I just won't leave the house for like 3 weeks, which is very healthy, I know. When I'm feeling like I can't walk or whatever, and I'm like feeling really stressed out, what's my other main thing? I really enjoy researching things. And you're like, okay, so what does that mean? So, I am an obsessive person by nature, so I obsess on things. I needed a water bottle. My water bottle's an amazing example. So this is a very nice water bottle. Thank you, Tarke. It's a very nice water bottle. I spent like a week researching the best water bottle brands, sustainable brands, ethics within the brands, and I'm one of those really fun people. If I want something, I must have the best thing. I very rarely spend excessive money on things, but that water bottle was like 30 quid or something stupid. And I think I paid like 10 quid for Post-it. So that's like a fucking 40 quid bottle, which is excessive for a very nice metal bottle from an old British brand. And it's to do with cycling and it's a whole thing, but whatever. I really enjoy clothes. So I go through these things with clothes. So I'll obsess. I'll be like, oh, I haven't got a denim jacket. I really want a denim jacket. So I'll spend like a month researching denim jackets and cuts and silhouettes and this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not feeling like walking and stuff. I obsess on stuff and then I end up problem spending. I basically spend money that I'm trying to save so I can change my living situation. And then I end up buying a nice jacket for like 50 quid. and it's fine, and it's like in the grand scheme of things, that should be fine. There's nothing wrong with every couple of weeks you go out and you spend like 100 quid or something. But when you're not on a very good schedule, not very good schedule, when you've got like basically no real income, then it's not very sustainable. So yeah, that's something that I need to get better at managing, and I'm fairly decent at it. It's also why I feel weird about loot boxes, and it's also a relevant topic in gaming in general, because there's a big issue with loot boxes and problem spending. Jim Sterling's made a bunch of really good videos about this recently, and the way that it fucks with your psyche in the MTX, and you spend the money, you go, do I really need this? That's why I try and spend less money on PoE MTX now, because it's kind of like, yeah, you could spend 60 quid and you could get an armor set in PoE, or you could spend 60 quid and you could get a really nice denim jacket which you'll wear for like 5 years and is real and you can touch it and it's a thing. And in the grand scheme of things, is it more important to look good in your video game to impress random people, or is it more important to look presentable in reality? I know I don't look very presentable. I've just woken up and I'm recording this at 3 in the morning, and whatever. Crohn's, again, sporadic periods of health and fatigue, infusions. So that's like my fun cycle, and that's the thing that I'm really struggling with at the moment, and I'm trying to work out. But hopefully I presented this video in a way that is mildly entertaining, but no, it's presented in a way that you can get where I'm coming from, but also if you're someone who is trying to stream or get into streaming, you can kind of see some of the realities of it, and you can go into it in a slightly more informed point of view, since I think that a lot of people know that like streamers struggle with like mental health and shit, but I don't think they get why. And they feel like, oh, it's because people get told to kill themselves on the internet a lot. That must be it. Most of it's people struggle maintaining the content cycle with their real shit, because everyone has real shit going on. And you feel like, oh, it's really easy, Tarke, just like ignore everyone. You can do that, but then the problem is you end up really miserable, and you get a lot of streamers who ignore everyone and all they do is stream, and that's their entire existence, and they get really lonely and they get really depressed. So it's a balancing act, and everything is a balancing act. I'm not looking for any answers or solutions, but I just thought I'd let you know where I'm coming from, why stream schedule's a bit sporadic at the moment. But anyway, I'm Tarke. That's my cyclical bullshit that I go through basically every single league. Have a good day. Bye-bye.